Well, we still don't have a starter that'll start. So, I guess the time has come to drop this one down off of Pearl and see what the problem is. Hey Nomies, welcome back to the MT and me. Well, another cool and blustery day out here, but not as cool. Temperature is actually up around 60 right now, which is about as warm as it gets in January around here. So we're taking advantage of that and get out here and do a little bit of work on Pearl. Now, to recap briefly, I probably don't have to remind you that we have some starter problems. Late last year, we got the engine to turn over, but it only did so twice. And then I had to stop because there was a little problem with the alternator that I had miswired. Well, that's all straightened out now. But the thing is, the motor still hasn't turned over since. All we get is that thumping click whenever we turn the key. Based on what I have checked so far, I think my starter has simply gone out. Obviously, the solenoid is working. That's what you hear thumping. But the motor itself, not doing anything at all. Battery's good. As near as I can tell, all of the connections are good, and it should be getting current down at the motor. It's just not working. So, we're going to drop that starter off so that we can have it out, work with it, check it out, and see if it will start with a direct connection to just the battery and nothing else. That's really the only way we can know if the starter itself is bad, or if there is indeed some sort of problem in that circuit between the starter and the switch and the starter solenoid and the battery and everything else in that electrical circuit. It's not a real complicated circuit. There's not a whole lot to it. There's not a whole lot that can go bad in there. So I'm kind of banking on a bad starter. Let's find out. Oh, it's always fun crawling under here. Okay, now, if I remember correctly, and I may not, we need a 5/8 socket to get those two bolts out that are holding the starter onto Pearl. Let's see how good my memory is. Look, 5/8 appears to be correct. You know, I'm taking this bottom bolt out, and it's starting to occur to me that maybe I should take the top one out first so that I can support the starter from under here when I do that final disconnect. I actually think that's the procedure that I figured out the last time. Let's do that. For this one, we have to use a shallow socket, short socket, whatever you want to call it. As you can see, there's not a lot of leverage. so it's going to take a while. Also remember that you have to get this wrench out before you start bumping back here. I think our bolt is loose enough. I can finish taking it out with my fingers. Top bolt removed. Let's go back to the bottom. Well, I have a strange and frustrating problem. I have a bolt that I can't get off of the starter, and it's a little bitty rascal. There are two electrical connections on the starter. One of them has a fairly large bolt that holds it. That one was no problem. But there's another one up here, a little bitty thing, that is giving me fits. This little thing right here is crazy. Now the big one, like I said, came off no problem. This one, I just can't quite figure out what size it is. Either that or it's so stripped out that I can't get it to move. Now, here's the thing. I've had it off before, because I've had this starter off before. So, I'm more than a little befuddled by this. And I'm rapidly running out of daylight here to work on it too. So, we may just have to stop where we are, come back tomorrow, and see if we can finish getting the starter off. And no, I never dreamed it was going to be this much of a problem. You just never know, do you? Right. I know, miss. Next day now, it's a little more cloudy. It's about 15 degrees cooler, and it's raining, as maybe you can hear. Not a lot, it's just sprinkling, but we're back out here to finish getting this starter off of Pearl. And the rain's not going to bother us because, well, I've got the cover set up here, and besides that, we're going under Pearl, and it's not raining under there. At least I hope not. Now, here's the situation, in case you've slipped since yesterday, like I have. We got the starter off, disconnected from the motor. There are two wires, that go to the starter that supply the power to it, to the starter motor, and also to the solenoid. Well, I got the heavier wire off just fine. Undid that nut, got it off of there, no problem. But the other wire has a itty-bitty tiny nut that apparently is tightened down as much as it can possibly be tightened. And I cannot find a socket or a wrench to fit it. At least I couldn't yesterday. And so I couldn't get that off of there. So I just kind of left the starter hanging under Pearl all night long. But we are armed today. I have an assortment of every small SAE and metric socket that I can find. It goes all the way down to a 4mm, and I think the smallest SAE is, what does it say, 5/32. I figure one of these little rascals has got to fit that tiny nut. All right? And if it doesn't, I have broken out the needle nose locking pliers. We'll put that on there and get it off, one way or the other. And if all this doesn't work, I'll just cut the darn wire and fix it later. But I really don't want to do that. So, let's go back under Pearl and get that rascally little nut off. This little nut right here is the problem. So let's grab some SAE sockets and just see if something might fit on it. Well, that's way too small. Let's try this one. Closer, but still no cigar. Let's give this a try. Oh, look. Look. I think we have found something. What is that? An 11/32. Now, is that a bizarre size or what? Let's see if we can get that thing off of there. I just want to get it loose. Oh. I think it's moving. All right. Now, we should be able to pull these free. There. We have a starter that's off. Finally. Okay. So the starter is out. And yeah, it turned into a bit more of a chore than I had anticipated. Can't believe that little bitty screw was such a problem to get off of there. I keep calling it a screw, but it's a nut. I also can't believe what I say it was in 11/30 seconds. Yeah, let's just pick the most bizarre size that we can find to put on the starter. Well, anyway, now we know. I'll write that down somewhere. But okay, starter's off. Now, we think it's bad. At least I think it's bad. But I don't know for sure. Doesn't really look bad. But I think what we're going to do is get some jumper cables, come off our battery, and go directly to those terminals and see if it runs. All right, Nomies, here's our extremely scientific test. Got cables hooked up to the starter here, firmly grounded, and here we bridged those two connectors together with a wire, and we have this one firmly attached, but it will connect to both at the same time. That's necessary to get the solenoid and the motor both fed at the same point. That's the reason there are two connections. On the other end, we are firmly connected negative-wise to the battery, and all we have to do is connect the positive to the positive terminal and hope nothing blows up. No, we'll just see what happens. So, let's get down to business and see what we can find out. All right, here goes nothing. Well, starter's not bad. Now, I'd say the starter is quite good. And you know what that means? Something else is wrong. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of trouble yesterday and today to get this starter off, figuring that it was bad. Well, it ain't bad. Starter's okay. It works. Works like it should. So that means that somewhere in the starting circuit, I still have a problem. And I really, right here, right now, am not sure where it might be. There are a lot of possibilities. Somewhere in that circuit, I have lost connection. And I'm pretty sure now that I know the starter's good, I'm pretty sure the reason there's still a problem is because I had that terminal on the alternator grounded. It smoked the wire on the alternator, but that meant current was flowing in directions it wasn't supposed to be flowing. So now I've got to go back and check everything else in the circuit. We know the battery's okay. We know that the starter switch is working because when it's all hooked up, you can hear the solenoid hitting. But we're not getting energy to the starter itself. So, I don't know, the voltage regulator is in that circuit. The alternator itself may have an open circuit in it now because I grounded part of it, and I mean, that can cause all kinds of problems. So there's some point in this circuit that I'm not getting an electron flow, which is what electricity is. So it's back to the drawing board. We just got to see if we can figure out what's wrong. But we ain't going to do that today. I do want to thank you for coming along with me these last couple of days and doing this little starter experiment. We can't really call it a failure because, like everything else we do on Pearl, even if things don't work out exactly like I expect them to, we still end up knowing more than we knew going into it. Now, I know the starter's good. I know it works. I know it is not the problem. So as we start eliminating problems, that means we'll find the real problem. Just going to take a little time. But time, I got. I appreciate you giving me your time today and every week here on the MT and Me. Our subscriber list is still growing. We're over 300 and climbing. Views have been shooting up last few weeks too. Thank you. Thank you all for watching, for liking the video, for subscribing. Keep it coming. You're making me feel good, and you're keeping me inspired, Nomies. Really, really are. So, if you haven't subscribed, you can do that below. Give me a thumbs up. And you can also go to the mtandme.com, which has had some problems lately, but I think it's kind of sort of back up now. Check it out, see if you can get there. And there's a lot of information on there about Pearl, about the Mobile Traveler company, and so much more. Okay, so check that out. We'll hope it's working. Hey, be here every week. And we'll see what we can do for Pearl and for all the other wild stuff going on around us here on the MT and Me. It is winter time, so the weather's unpredictable. I ain't gonna get out here when it's bitter cold or snowy or windy. I'm out here in the rain today because it's not too bad and it's not too cold. But when weather gets rough, we'll find something else to talk about. But we'll be here each and every week. Make sure you join me. Thank you, my nomies. I love each and every one of you. Catch you next time. For now, I'm Russ, and we will talk later.